This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
This is Financial Insanity, the show where we break down the crazy world of finance into simple, relatable terms. I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean, financial advisor with McLean Advisory Group, right here in Weirtown in Ocean County, New Jersey. And Scott's the man with the plan to keep your money safe from the traps and pitfalls of financial planning. And we're going to go through today Scott's book, the introduction and chapter 1. Also, later on, we're going to discuss retirement challenges for women and also hop in the time machine going back to 1975. But it's good to see you, Scott.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate your idea of maybe sharing what's in the book because people don't like reading. So I figure if I can entice them to learn, I think that's the whole reason. So I am making finance a little bit less insane.
Yes.
It's out of control.
We will do our best. And if you have any questions, if you would like to ask about getting a copy of that book, Three Blind Mice, the number 609-488-4646. That is 609-488-4646. And Scott, first off, very simply, why the name Three Blind Mice? We talking about a financial fairy tale here, Scott?
I wanted to pull it in because, people remember the story of the three blind mice, and it represents pretty much traditional financial advisors who, despite of good intentions, often lead clients into a financial trap. And by the way, our audience, you may be in that trap, which is why I wrote the book. It's due to outdated methods and lack of collaboration. Collaboration meaning working with the accountant and the lawyer. And then when you do the beneficiaries, the titling of assets, they're completely clueless. And I can tell you, this is a trap that's been set. And many people listening right now, Alex, they don't even know it.
Yeah. And so Three Blind Mice, not just a catchy title, also a metaphor for financial traps that we need to avoid. Scott, let's talk about the introduction. Can you give us a little taste of what the intro is all about there in your book?
Money really isn't everything. It's right up there with the essentials of life with breathing. I remember people at church, Scott, money isn't everything. Well, it is right up there again with breathing. And when you pay attention to it, the decisions people make and the myths, the misconceptions, the downright bad advice, no matter what goes on, we need to pay attention. And again, the introduction really starts off about the financial literacy. People are not literate. There's no really classes out there from kindergarten up to high school. And so the idea is the traps that you've learned, people have learned today, and the kids are not even getting that now. You know what? The trap has been set, and therefore there could be evaporation of money. And I can tell you, this is a problem, Alex.
Yeah. And you talked about they're discussing some common mistakes, and there's some interesting phrases in the book that many of us might recognize. And so I want to see if people have heard this before, and then I want you to discuss why these phrases are indeed traps. So here's something you hear. Spend it. I'm only young once.
Boy.
Another one. It's only 0% interest. Or my favorite, I work hard and deserve it. How are these possible traps, Scott?
They're real. And they trying to justify their poor financial decisions. I deserve it. You know what? Go spend $500 a month on that new car. But when you look at the budget, can they afford it? And all of a sudden, 2-3 years goes down the line. They bought a car for $10,000, or let's say $15,000 is a live example. And after interest and payments, they end up paying $30,000. So they use the example, well, I deserve it. I work hard. I get it. And this really is a trap. They've been trained either by their parents, grandparents, or perhaps no parents, or didn't listen to their parents. And I've noticed this, and of course it carries on. And I'm an old bat right now. I guess I'm 65 now, and I can hear my dad's voice talking about money all the time, but being frugal, watch your money, and treat people exceptionally well, so they listen to you. And this is the traps where I put throughout the book.
Yeah, and Scott, I want you to maybe illustrate one of these traps that we just mentioned, and after you do that, if you could, roll that into giving out that phone number for people if they have any questions about any of these traps we're discussing.
The traps you think about, number one is, where do I invest the money? I look about the areas of money. So you're taking money out, but did you pay attention to the taxes? How about the potential growth? You bought a nice stock, like we hear these AI stocks are taking off like a rabbit. And of course, you buy them, you sell them, and now we have a tax situation. Did the planner or the advisor look at the taxes along with the investments? You look at it, it's like planning a road trip, and you're just looking at it, but you're really not checking the fuel gauge. And this is where people get stranded, ending up in the wrong portfolio, the wrong advice, or perhaps maybe everybody wants growth. No one wants shrinkage. So where do you invest money? And again, that's the biggest problem. People are so attuned to looking at the right-hand side of their portfolio, the bottom right, which is, how much did I have? How much did I have last year? Well, how much growth did I have? They forget to look at, well, did I get dividends? Did I get more shares of stock? Am I taking too much money out? If you're asking yourself these questions, this is why people really should pay attention for a second advice or a review. Maybe your portfolio isn't up to snuff. Whether you're going through different times of the season, winter, snow, the heat, maybe it's elections, maybe it's the children got sick. They're not looking at the big picture. And this is the challenge, what I talk about when I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice, how your financial planning process leads your money to a financial trap. Well, this is the problem. And if you have questions, please feel free to give our studios a call at 609-488-4646. I'd love to empower our listeners to have the ability to give us a call off the air. No time, no expense, we're not going to bill you. Let's just have a 10, 15-minute discussion to see if you are in the right place, or maybe you've outgrown your financial advisor. Maybe you grew your money into retirement, but now you've failed to make that most obvious shift from the growth area to the income area so you won't outlive your money. And that's important, Alex.
It absolutely is. And as we're discussing today, the introduction and chapter 1 of Scott's book, Three Blind Mice, on the show today, Financial Insanity. And Scott, I want you to discuss something you referenced, and that's the rat race. So you referenced that here early on. What are we talking about? What's the rat race you're referencing?
I think we're all in a rat race. I mean, when you're losing weight, the rat race is, I want to have that ice cream and cake, but I know I'm trying to lose weight. And so you get caught in that rat race. In the financial world, this endless cycle of working hard, trying to make ends meet, never feeling like you're getting ahead. And just like the nursery rhyme, many people are blindfolded to the outdated financial advice and running around in circles. And I think this is so important. As you said, the metaphor, Alex, is so important because it could turn into a tremendous, tremendous problem in their portfolio. So again, when you think about it, if you're out there, this might be me. You're thinking to yourself, 609-488-4646. I don't know if I gave that number out before. I want people to feel empowered that they can call, not feel like they're going to be sold. 609-488-4646. Because you yourself could be in that cycle or the rat race, hearing the same old thing, because your advisor, probably good-looking gentleman or good-looking woman, and you've been with them for years, but you failed to ask the right questions, or they don't bring it up when you do your reviews. This is insane.
Absolutely. And it's got something else insane, too, is just to turn your back on some things that really are important when it comes to your financial picture. And there could be what you reference as the great disconnect with folks and their finances. If you would, in the book here, you talk about an 11-year-old boy named Charlie. Can you tell us a little bit about that story and how maybe there was some disconnection with this person and their money?
You know, Charlie was a hardworking young man, 11 years old. And, of course, his parents made him do work, mow the lawns, do the odd job, save your money. He went to the county fair, had $100 in his pocket, and he was so excited to go there. By the way, you might think it might be me. It could have been me, by the way. And you go to the fair and you go there and your friends got their money and you've got your hard-earned money, like those going into retirement, your hard-earned money. And after going on a fancy rides, found out there was $20 gone. Now, if we equate it to numbers, that's 20%. You know what? He wanted to go on more rides. He wanted to enjoy the ride, but he didn't have enough money. He put his hand in his pocket and found out, wow, I don't have enough money. And this story came up when I was thinking about my own life and the lives of clients I meet. When the market takes a left hook, you put your hand in the wallet or you look at your statement and saying, will my money last? Will my life last longer than my money? The fear of death is no longer number one. It's the fear of running out of money. And that seems to be the process when I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice, because you're not looking at the whole thing. It's almost like putting your head in the ground like an ostrich at the zoo. But what are they doing? Well, their vitals are exposed to all the whims and traps of the financial world. This is important, Alex.
It absolutely is. As we're discussing today, Scott's book, Three Blind Mice, How Today's Financial Planning Process Leads Your Money to a Mousetrap. If you have any questions, if you want to ask about how to get a free copy of the book, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Just a couple minutes left here, Scott. One of the key issues you highlight here early on in the book, the importance of understanding your overall financial picture. Explain why that is just so crucial.
When you invest money, it depends on your risk and how much you can risk. Everybody loves growth. Everybody's watching the AI stocks or the growth stocks, and they see it and they feel, they call it the fear of missing out. And they forget, what if the market turns back? What if I fear missing out? I put my money in like 1928. People put their money in, and then they're devastated by 1932, 33, when the market dropped. This is a common mistake of fear of missing out. And the trap has been set. Do you have too much stocks? Maybe too much bonds, or maybe not enough bonds. When interest rates are high, it's time to cash in, go into bonds. When interest rates start to come down, you can win. So again, depending on the climate of the market, and these are common traps that are there every single time because everybody wants to sell the hype and the excitement. Everybody wants to sell the newest fad. The question is, let's stay consistent. And when people call us, Alex, the most important thing is they need to understand, what's your biggest concern? Let's talk about that. And if you have that on your mind right there, right now, feel free to give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. Love to try to help you, not sell you, educate you.
Coming up, we're going to talk about planning for the worst, hoping for the best. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. But do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
Get all this stuff and you try to put it away like these hoarders on TV. It has an emotional attachment.
So, Scott, you're saying I don't have to keep every single drawing that my son has done? You're saying I could throw some of that away?
The answer is yes. You can take a picture, then throw it out.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Every year, more than 500,000 Americans file for bankruptcy due to medical bills. Healthcare emergency, catastrophic illness, accident can knock you off your feet physically and financially. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean. The number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. And this is a reality, Scott, and something that we got to plan for, that stuff's going to happen. We're going to have medical expenses.
Medical expenses are real. Going through what I went through, just a knee surgery, put me a new knee in there, and now I got to work out. But it takes time, effort, and energy. They said I wouldn't be back to work for 2 or 3 weeks, and some people take longer. Well, I was back in a week. I think you and I spoke the week after, but I didn't have the energy I had. I was planning for the best because I told the staff before the drugs wore off, I'll be in next couple of days, guys. No big deal. This is the second day out of the surgery, and went right home that next day or the same day. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I felt great until the major drug wore off, and then I planned for the best. Didn't really plan for the worst. I thought I could jump in the office real quick, but my brain was in the office because I love what I do. I love speaking to you, Alex. I love speaking to people on the air and helping people. I thought I'd have my energy back, and it just wasn't back. How did I plan for it? I didn't plan for it. But how do you plan for it when it comes to your money? That's a hard thing. We don't plan to become sick and then our lights go dim. We don't plan for a car accident, although we do buy car insurance. We don't plan for inflation. We just have to now mitigate or drive ourselves through inflation by reducing our spending, reallocating our investments, maybe not spending money going out to eat as much, so we can work our way through it. We've seen inflation. For those of you who've been around as long as I have, and I'm an old dog, 65, and I can tell you, I feel like my brain says I'm 19, 20. My body says I'm a little bit older, at least for now. How do you plan for the worst? Well, when it comes to finances, that's what's called the asset allocation. It's a big fancy word by saying we don't want to have everything in the bond account. We don't want to have everything into the short-term accounts, into the banks. We don't want to have everything into maybe mid cap, small cap, large caps. Maybe we need to diversify around and find different alternatives. So there's in the universe of investments, Alex, like medical costs. Well, there's one thing in medical costs. Of course, they're always going to be expensive, and they keep going up. You have the right insurance. You can plan for that, the best of your ability. You can do those planning. And then as things go on, you ask other people, you pull your brain with some other financial advisors who have been through that tough road or who are going through it or understand it. This is really helpful information. And we talked about medical bills. And one of the biggest medical bills I speak to people when they get a certain age is, should I put my house into a irrevocable trust? So in the event I have to go to a nursing home, I've heard this, Scott, how can I preserve my assets? Where do I put my assets? So I want to make sure that my biggest assets, whether it's a huge bank account, savings account, investment account, maybe my house or my second house, should I put that into a special trust to really protect that or shield that or almost insulate that from the crows and the clowns that show up at the funeral? And when I think about that, many people forget that because they don't want to think about going to the nursing home. They want to think about, going to a place they're going to be away from their home. It's hard to think about. That is what you can plan now for. And then, of course, you have special trusts. We have special attorneys here, and I think we've done a show a time or two. I think we'll do one coming up soon where we talk about these special trusts that could really benefit some of you out there that are thinking about it, or maybe plan for the best and then plan for the worst. I should say hope for the best. Maybe you have a son or daughter out there that are going to be preventing, getting money if you pass away. Plan for the best. How do you give it to them? Do you give it all to them? This is part of your estate planning. How do you diversify the portfolio so that they can get a inheritance? Or maybe they are going through a divorce, and how do we protect the money from your child's spouse? These are questions, Alex, I get all the time.
Yep.
I call it a come to Jesus meeting, a really down-to-earth, real session. This is not textbook financial planning 101. This is asking questions 102.
Right.
Let's really understand what's going on. So again, when you're planning for medical care, if let's hope for the best. Yes, we should diversify our portfolio to make money. Plan for the worst. Okay, right now, cash is a great, right, to certain times, cash is a great investment because interest rates are high. But interest rates are low, diversify. But how do we protect our money? Or maybe we're going through a bump in the road, or possible bankruptcy. You mentioned that's a possibility. How do we protect our assets? This is the art of financial planning. But Alex, by the way, I did write a book called The Financial Planning Process, how the financial planning process leads your money to a mousetrap. If anybody's out there who would like to get a copy of that, please call. We'll put you on the air. We'll talk to you about it, give you, or those who want a quick segment of the estate planning. We'd love to get that in your hands. Just give Bonnie a call at 609-488-4646. I'll do it. No cost, no obligation. We can send you the e-chapters, like the PDF chapters. You can send it there. And for those of you who want to visit with me one-on-one, I'd love to get you a book in your hands so you really understand all the different areas. I mean, 40 plus years in this industry. And when I try to commonize or put it together, planning, you're thinking for the best. I want the best to happen. We all want the best until you get hit by a car or you go through a divorce. Or your sweetie pie just died and you don't know how to handle the money because he or she did the money, but you didn't. This is the worst. You need to get a backup quarterback in your life. I'd love to speak to you. If you want to give me a call, by the way, if you're needing guidance or want to question me off the air, please do so. Don't put this back in your brain and put this off. I'd love to talk to you. 609-488-4646. You will not get a sales pitch. You will not get a bill. You will not get come and see me and we'll see how we can help you. You're not going to get that. I've been here for so long in Ocean County since 1979 when I moved up from down south, coming off the road, cutting some albums. I can tell you a fact that if you come visit with us, let's just have a conversation. If the conversation leads to a great area, maybe you go back to your financial guy or gal, your lawyer, but you need to get things done. You've put it on the shelf too long. Maybe I'm speaking to you right now. If you've put this on the shelf for too long and have not brought these planning for the worst, expecting the best, but planning for the worst, let's have that conversation because this conversation is a true, real conversation. Why? To protect all your hard-earned time, effort, and energy, which equals assets. Protect that from the crows and the clowns that usually show up with their hands out. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Alex. I'd love to speak to you off the air. Alex, I don't know how they can get a hold of me. You want to give them a shout out, but I think this is really important, especially now when our economy is doing some crazy stuff. Plan for the best and for the worst for both.
Yep. 609-488-4646, the number, 609-488-4646 at a.com for the website. And talking about healthcare costs, it's a great thing we have Medicare. Turns on after we turn 65, but it's obviously, it doesn't cover everything. And I know you know some about it. You have folks that ask about it. What is not covered generally, and what are some options for folks dealing with these medical costs that are not covered by Medicare?
Well, I can tell you in the Medicare, I'm actually in that area with many of you people out there. But it really, when you think about the Medicare costs, I know you want to look pretty and get that face, a tummy tuck or the facelift, or I need a facelift when I was born. But anyway, I was just thinking, it doesn't cover that cosmetic surgery. If you were hurt in a car accident and need cosmetic surgery due to the car accident, it would cover it. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't cover it because you want to get pretty like me or ugly like me and get prettier anyway.
And we don't recommend people get in car accidents on purpose.
No. That's absolutely no. Don't do that.
Shouldn't do that.
Maybe nursing home. You think it's going to cover nursing home, but that does not cover it. That's a different type of program. Maybe you're about to fly and take a trip overseas. You might want to get travel insurance. I've spoken to so many people, and one of our clients actually almost died overseas. They had to get flown in. Luckily, they had a large enough estate that they were able to get flown in, but they had a hard time getting flown in because they didn't want the doctors to handle him. It doesn't cover that. So you think about your travel. By the way, if you're traveling, I'll throw this out there for poops and giggles. If you're going to go travel, bring your power of attorney, a copy of the power of attorney, and stick that in your briefcase. Good tip for you. If you're going on a trip out of state or a vacation out of the country, bring your power of attorney, because you never know on this. The doctors might say, well, who's the power of attorney? And it'd become a real stickler, because now Time's saying are stickler, or make sure that your kids have a copy of the power of attorney via PDF they could send to you. But I would encourage you to do that. But look, again, it doesn't cover, let's go back to the subject at hand, the Medicare. It's not going to cover your fancy dental work. And so that's expensive. Hearing aids, if you're a veteran during wartime period, or maybe you served and you had certain in the gunnery range, or maybe in a tank, it may cover by the VA. So check out the Veterans Benefit. I've got a great contact for you to call somebody if you need that help for our dear veterans that served, and as well as long-term care. Feel free to call me. I built a company called Veterans Benefit Advisory Group in 2008. And then, of course, your eyes and your eye exam. So hearing aids, there's a lot of things it doesn't cover. You kind of think it does cover. So if you're like me, as you're in the Medicare period of time, these are things you should be aware of. And when you shop it out, which you can shop it out, there's all different prices. You can shop it out every single year. But again, there are things it doesn't cover that you maybe think it does cover.
Yep.
Beware. You want to plan for the best. So I think that's critical.
And Scott, people that have questions, they could give you a holler, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. This is Financial Insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. And we're talking today about planning for the worst, hoping for the best. And we're going to talk about long-term care. Nearly 70% of retirees are going to need this at some point. Don't go anywhere. More coming up.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Retirement planning, investment planning is a two-way street. It's got to meet. I need to understand the good, bad, and ugly you've been through so we can avoid those issues. This, to me, is very important.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Nearly 70% of retirees going to need some type of long-term care. That's according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So not a sure thing, but chances are you or your spouse are going to need long-term or nursing care of some sort at some time. And while the costs vary by location, the median cost of a private room in a nursing home over $100,000. This is Financial Insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. I'm Alex Dingman, along with Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. And Scott, no surprise to you, that number there may be a surprise to some. Long-term care not covered by Medicare, Scott.
It's not. I'll never forget my daddy. I don't know if I mentioned this before in one of our shows, Alex, when Daddy and I were in the car, we're buying a property up in Newark, New Jersey, actually East Orange, and we're driving. So, son, when I get older, we were going pretty fast on the Garden State Parkway at the time. This was back in the 90s. And, of course, Daddy was young. Well, back then because he was young, but I'm thinking now I'm old.
Yeah.
He said, Dad, what's on your heart? He goes, son, I just want to let you know that if I get dementia, Alzheimer's, I want you to do me a favor. If I get, disabled,
sure,
do me a favor, go down this Garden State Parkway and push me out. What, Dad? What are you kidding? He's like, come on, Dad.
Yeah.
And we always joked around like that because we were just a down-to-earth family. And I said, Dad, are you serious? He goes, son, I don't want to go to a nursing home. But now there's nothing wrong with nursing homes.
Yeah.
But if you're in a nursing home or maybe you have a loved one there, you do want to inspect what you expect, by the way. But I'll just remember, nursing homes have a way, as you mentioned, Alex, at the beginning of the show, to evaporate that hard-earned income, that hard-earned retirement, that hard-earned beautiful house or estate that you've built. It has a way of really putting a lien on it. And you would never know. So when we talk about healthcare costs, yes, long-term care, and by the way, there's several types, but long-term care provisions or policies or types of contract could be very, very, very valuable. As we spoke, I guess earlier in the segment, we spoke one time about Medicare and what does it cover, what doesn't it cover, the gaps in between it, the drugs, does it cover drugs? But long-term care, this is long-term care. And some states are more effective than other states. So again, this is a good discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are some products, like give you an idea out there. I'm not selling you. Listen to me. Listen, you guys, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to tell you what's out there so you're aware. See, unaware is lack of knowledge. But if you have knowledge, now you know how to take action. But there's a few products have been out. When I was younger, I remember I was out in Jacksonville, Florida, where I grew up. And I remember some guys coming door to door selling cancer policies. And I remember, what the heck is this cancer policy crap, Dad? He goes, son, well, I understand cancer is getting bigger. This is the 60s and 70s. I'll never forget it. And I remember Daddy was saying, son, we don't need that. It's just cancer policy. It's cheap. It's like something like $50 a year, and they cover all sorts of cancer. Let's snap forward from 1960, and here it's the year 2000. 40 plus years forward, my dad died of cancer and my mom did die of cancer. Should they spend the policy? I don't know. But as of those times, policies have gotten better. They've become more aware that people don't want to throw their money away.
Right.
So there's some kind of contracts called long-term care coverage that'll cover the cost. And this could be in the form of life insurance. So if you don't need it, then what happens is you get a lump sum tax-free distribution. So you get all the money back that you paid in. There's other types of contracts that if you put a lump sum down and you don't use it, you get it all back plus interest. There's other policies. If you like the old policy of day, I think Travelers was the number one back then, or Genworth was another company, and John Hancock. A lot of companies out there had the long-term care contracts. And so you pay. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's what the normal contracts were of years ago, but they've gotten much better. This might be a good tool, but let me give you another tool out there, guys, in addition to the long-term care that Alex is really waking some people up to. And Alex is a very good topic. I'm glad you brought it up because people think they got it covered, but it can evaporate your money drastically.
Oh, yeah.
And you think, I can take care of my husband. I can take care of my wife if they get it. I can take care of him. Yeah, your heart is big. Your muscles may be big, but they do get worn out. Your energy gets worn out, and now you need some help. It is a caregiver that you're going to need, and I'm going to tell you that 9 times out of 10, you're going to need a caregiver or someone to come in and help you, whether you're your children or maybe someone else, but you're going to need that. And I know we came that with my mom and dad. When Daddy died in 5 days with cancer, leukemia. My mom had cancer. It went from her lung to her kidneys, and 3 months later, she went home to be with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But the neatest thing about it, if there was anything neat about it, they died short term.
Of course.
The worst part is watching your mom and dad, like my ex-father-in-law, in a nursing home bed in the VA hospital for 3.5 years of brain cancer. Let me tell you something, guys. This is something that needs to be planned for, and this is something you can do. Whether you speak to your financial advisor or not, or an insurance guy or gal, this needs to be a discussion. Why? Because it's not only a product or a vehicle to use, but maybe it is an estate planning tool. Should I buy or open up a trust? Should I start hiding, or I should say redirecting, better than hiding? Should I redirect my assets into a special trust, which people do with us all the time, Alex, into this trust? So in the event my lights go dim or this money's starting to go out, they will not have to have liens against their property or use the assets. This is planning in the best portion of the area that you can do now. And I think, Alex, people are putting this aside. They're not paying attention. And the reason why? Who the heck wants to talk about your lights going dim?
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about that.
Of course, nobody wants to talk about it, but like we said before, nearly 70% of folks are going to need some sort of long-term care at some point. Yeah. And if you have questions, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Usually the time is, well, as early as possible, but when is the ideal time to start preparing for those long-term care needs? Because, I mean, like anything, I'm sure price goes up longer you wait, but what makes the most sense, Scott?
I'm going to reverse that question. When is the best time to start saving? The first day you get a job. When's the best time to plan for long-term care? When you're about to start to retire, or put that in your plan. See, it's not, you may not even need it, but the new programs and the new facilities they have out there, the new products they have out there, Alex, there are some tools that could really help insulate and protect your assets. I don't recommend a special trust for a lot of people right off the bat, but I'm going to give them heads up. So every year, if your financial advisor, your salesman, your agent, whatever you want to call them, if they don't bring up this area of the healthcare issues, where they're leaving a piece of you off the table, they're not bringing it up. And I'm not being ugly, I'm not being curt. I'm sure they love you to death. But this is not talking about the last trip you had. This is not talking about your kid's wedding or their great grandbaby that just popped out. No, those are great topics. But if we got down into the muck and grabbed our shovel and start to dig down, we're going to find some muck in this discussion to figure out how can we fill this up with protection clauses, rules, whether it's a trust, an irrevocable remainder trust. Maybe you need to start gifting to the children, in addition to protecting the assets, reallocating the investments so it's in a safer mode. So if you need it, it's there. And then, of course, so for some of you who are financially well off, it should be a gifting policy. But by the way, Alex, real quick, that's one of the strategies. I spoke to a person that came in just recently. They have a very nice estate, and I mentioned him on the phone. It came from a radio show, Alex. Our radio show is how much can you gift right now in 2023. How much can you gift right now, and what's the gift tax exclusion? And that's $17,000. If you're listening to this show right now, it's 2023. In 2023, it's $17,000. But wait, what's that? But wait, there's more. See, if you're married, it's $34,000. But wait, there's more. You see, in this family, they had a very large estate. And I mentioned to him as we had our phone call when they called in from one of our radio shows, Alex, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but he called in and he asked me, he said, so Scott, what should I do and how should I handle it? I said, basically, on everything you just told me on our call, but I'd like to meet you again in person to make sure I got all the details and see the numbers you have. And he did come in just recently. Right on the phone, I said, did you know you could give each one of your kids right now? In his case, it was wonderful. And each one of you out there, don't use his situation for yours, but just gravitate this to your situation, meaning he wanted to give each kid $500,000. Now, his estate was very, very healthy. And he said, Scott, I can do that right now. I said, yes, but it's going to require a lot of work. Really? What do I have to do? It's one piece of paper. Are you kidding me, Scott? We was joking back and forth. He's an 84-year-old young man. I said, yeah, it's just one piece of paper. And it's this piece of paper will come from your tax preparer. He said, well, does it cost a lot of money? No, it's actually probably maybe $25 and you fill out the forms. He said $25 and I can give each kid $500,000. They don't pay any tax on the money I give them. And I could do that right now. I said, yes, absolutely. He said, well, I want to do that. What is that piece of paper? Okay, that's called the gift tax exclusion form. You've got to fill that out. You give that out to the event. You can give actually a tremendous amount of money on the exemptions in 2023, and every year it's been going up. So I encourage, if you're thinking about giving and you're using the number 10,000, that's old school. Today it's 2023, it's 17,000, and it goes up every year. But actually, there's an exclusion up to $20 million if you're married and over. So this is a great way, again, when you're looking at the the publication 559. If you pull that up on the gift taxes, you can read that if you like reading that boring stuff. But for those of you, to him, it's not boring because it affects him.
Yeah.
So again, Alex, when we're talking about the long-term care, we're talking about taxes, we're talking about gifting. This is where a financial advisor really needs to get down and dirty and look at all the areas. And I'm sure your guy, if you're listening to me, I'm sure your guy or gal does that. And if they don't, maybe they're just a one-trick pony and sell certain individual products. This could be not good for your financial health.
Yep.
You got to look at everything, Alex.
Absolutely. And if you have questions, Scott has answers. 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. When we come back, I've got questions, you've got questions, we've all got questions. Coming up next, Scott answering those questions with our mailbag segment. Stay with us. This is Financial Insanity.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
Sounds like the mailman's here.
It's time to answer questions from the McLean Advisory Group mailbag.
Scott gets questions each and every week about all things retirement. So now, here, Financial Insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. We got the mailbag segment, and this is always a lot of fun and important, too, to answer the questions of some folks out there, some common retirement questions. And so we've narrowed down some good ones, Scott. Let's start off here, and this is a good one, I believe, because I don't think there's a whole lot of guidance out there in this regard. How much life insurance should I have? Life insurance. How much is enough?
That's a loaded question. You see, in the early years, you need a lot of life insurance, but the later years, you don't. Now, obviously, that's called the theory of decreasing responsibility, because in the early years, you don't have a lot of money. So you're saving, you get young kids, you got high debt, you got a mortgage, you got a car loan. And so in those years, you probably need a lot of life insurance. But as you don't have a lot of life insurance, maybe you just save money. This is where the buy term and investment theory came many, many years ago from Art Williams. Brilliant thought, although there's a problem within that, but let me stay with me. But also in the early years, you don't have a lot of money, so you're saving. Now here you are, you're old, like we are, those listening right now. Maybe you got some young people too. I had a couple of young callers come in and they said, Scott, I listen to your radio show. I said, you do? All right, well, thank you. So your kids are grown. There's no more debt, or maybe you don't have your mortgages paid off. You don't have that much spending. You're not blowing and going as much as you were. And so life has changed. So the theory of decreasing responsibility. So I like to use a theory, and I've kept that with me, called the DIME, D-I-M-E. How much debt do you have? You have a total debt of, let's just say, $25,000 in debt. And then we have income, okay? So if I had income, D-I, if I needed to replace $25,000 of income, simply take $25,000 I need to replace and divide that by 0.04, let's say at 4%. Well, $25,000 at 4%, you divide that number, that means I need a pot of at least $625,000 if I want to replace that income. So that's $25,000 there. And so we divide that by, again, 0.04, which is 6.5. Now we have M, mortgage. Do we want the mortgage paid off? Does my lovely spouse want to pay off? Let's say that my mortgage is $100,000, and that brings us to $750,000, and that's M. How much in mortgage? Now, if you have 2 or 3 mortgages, depends. The renters are paying it. Maybe you don't have renters and you're not paying it, but do you want to pay it off or not? E, for those people who are going to pay educational expenses. Maybe you're taking care of your grandkids and something happened to your son or your daughter, and maybe you're taking care of the grandkids, but you want to make sure their education expenses are covered. DIME. And let's say I'd like to have an extra $50,000 just to get the kids through the first year or 2 year of school. Real simple. 25 plus 625 plus 100 plus 50. Really, really, really simple. And so when you think about it, how much life insurance? Now that we're older, maybe you don't need that much. This is where the mistake comes with pension planning. What do I mean by that? Imagine your pension, as this police officer was in today, and his income was $8,000 a month. And he said, well, you know what? I don't want to give my wife $6,500. I don't want to live on $6,500 because if I die, she gets $6,500. So I'll go ahead and buy a $600,000 life insurance. Pay attention. I see this mistake all the time. If you use my simple rule, take $8,000 a month and you multiply it by 12. And that's real simple to do. If you've got a calculator in your brain, that's $96,000 you have to replace. Well, you can do it one of 2 ways. Maybe you have 30 years left in your life. So at $96,000 times 30 years, you need $2.88 million. But what if you want to pass money on to the kids and you want to give your wife or your spouse? Well, the $96,000 divided by 0.04, you need $2.4 million in that pot. This is the amount of insurance that person should have purchased before they thought about taking the $6,500. And then if he dies, his wife or spouse gets $6,500. This is the rule of decreasing theory of responsibility. Well, now it's becoming the responsibility theory on how much life insurance I need. Now, I just threw a lot of numbers at you guys. So let me make it simple. Very simple. 609-488-4646. Please don't put this aside. You may not need any insurance. Some of you might be financially independent. You got plenty of cash. But what if you burn all the cash up because you're in the long-term care we spoke earlier about, and you used all that money? Could you leave anything to the kids? Number 2, maybe, just maybe, you want the house paid off for your spouse just in case the lights go out and there's a terrible accident. Maybe you just want to pay the mortgage off. So there's other types of policies if you qualify. Now, Alex, I want to leave this to you people listening to me. Client came into me, several people, and I always ask lots of questions before they even think about being a client or before we even accept them as a client. We found out that he was disabled. Alex, his premium on his life insurance had he had $375,000. I'll never forget it. And I talked to him and we started going through the fact finder, the will, power of attorney, living will. I looked at the tax returns. I saw the tax bracket. I saw the marginal tax bracket. I was showing how to reduce taxes. And then I also weaved into the area of looking at the will, power of attorney, living will, finding out, wow, who gets all the money? How is the beneficiary set up? Then I looked at the investments. When I got to the life insurance, after asking him how his health was, I found out he had a clause in his policy that would have paid the policy for over 20 years. It was actually 21.6 years. The premium on his policy wasn't much for some of you listening. It was just $2,500. When I looked at it, I'm like, wow, I said, you have this clause in the policy in the back of I read the back of the policy. That's where I went to first. And I found out that he had in there clause that would have paid the premium for his entire life. And I looked at it because he got disabled in a car accident. 5 months later, after telling him exactly what to do, exactly how to handle it, he comes in with this big bottle of Johnny Walker, the good stuff. At least that's what people tell me. It's the best, very expensive, I guess. He showed me a receipt for $53,750 he got back for premiums he paid in that he didn't have to pay in. Now, if you're listening out there and you have insurance, you might want to keep it. I don't know. Maybe you don't need insurance. But the biggest question you're asking, Alex, is the dime theory. Debt, income. Do you need to replace the income? Do you want to pay off the mortgage? And do we have any education expenses? Most of us paid the kids' college. Maybe we want to pay the college off. Maybe you have plenty of money. But maybe you want to have that and cover from tax-free money. And that's what smart people do. They look into insurance. Also, the secondary type of coverage is called debt-free money. Dime. Very simple. And then the theory of decreasing responsibility, or the theory of responsibility when you get older. Alex, next question.
I love it. Mailbag questions. If you have a question, give Scott a holler, 609-488-4646. Again, Scott can be reached at 609-488-4646. How about common credit mistakes? Somebody might be thinking I need to build some credit. Somebody might be thinking I need to educate a young person in my life about credit. Somebody might be thinking what opportunities exist later on in life. What are some common credit mistakes, Scott?
Number one is you open up a lot of credit cards, but then you start canceling them. That's going to hurt your credit score if you need the credit. Many people I'm talking to right now, Alex, probably don't need credit. I mean, you're a young man. I'm an old goat. But a lot of people out there don't need the credit. They're not buying stuff anymore. But if you're still buying stuff and you got credit cards, just kind of put it away. Maybe put it in a coffee can, put it in the freezer and with water so you're not tempted to use it unless you're a credit card holic and you're cracking up bills. So you want to eliminate that debt. Second thing, of course, on top of that is if you have some credit, maybe you're just building your credit. Maybe some of you listening right now, maybe you had a bump in the road. Maybe you went through a bankruptcy. And you're now trying to build your credit. Well, get a couple credit cards. Even if you're 60, why not build it up in case you need it? So I'm talking to both types of people here because this could be helpful to you. And that's a great question because debt can be a good thing. Good debt like a house, revolving debt versus fixed debt. How you pay the debt off is critically important. Revolving debt versus fixed debt. And so I think about that and your credit card and the debts you're going to have. Then I think about when you're going to buy things, because really, when you pay off your mortgage, you have very much a debt. And if you had a equity line of credit, equity lines of credit pays off faster than fixed mortgages. Let me say it again. Equity line of credit pays off faster than your fixed mortgages because the interest keeps going down on the equity line of credit. So you're not paying interest on that principal. So if you're paying extra money in to your mortgage on a equity line of credit, that means you don't pay that much interest on the next payment cycle. So it eats up the debt much faster versus you think about the revolving debt, 18% could kill you. So really be careful if you're trying to pay your debt down, you might want to give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. You know what? Life happens. We all go through poop. Some of you might be saying, oh, I don't need to worry about this segment. I don't need to listen to this. Well, that's okay. I guarantee you might have a friend out there that's going out to dinner with you that might be not in a very good position. Maybe they're hurting and they're using their credit card not because they want to, because they have to. Maybe a good consult, maybe have them give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. But again, you kind of want, when you look at debt stacking and revolving debt, that could lead to debt-free financial independence. and we love to help those people with those questions. Again, I just want to, I go into depth things. I get so excited. I've been in the business now going to my 41st year, and I love helping people and educating them on what to do. If you'd like that help, if you'd like to say, Scott, I want a guidance, I need help, I'd love to talk to you off the air. 609-488-4646. That's why people come in and visit with us, is because we educate them, showing them smart, sound decisions to make their money work for them. 609-488-4646. Why do you think I called our show Financial Insanity? Out of the box thinking for your financial sanity. Thanks for joining us today. I hope this was helpful. Look forward to hearing from you guys. And stay tuned to our new workshops. Go to our website, 609-488-4646.com.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.